I just kind of I'm not even drinking it. I just sat it in here. Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm here, one-man review of Master of None Season 2, because nobody else watched it, so what are you going to do, am I right? So, of course, after about a year and a half, Aziz Ansari is back with a bit more of Dev and Friends in Master of None Season 2. And it's really, you could say it's more of Season 1, but it's not. You know, it's that same kind of honest, very to-the-point comedy that they delivered in Season 1. A lot of commentary on a bit of social issues that have been going on in the U.S. in recent years and months, especially. And good love story, of course. Season 1, you had Dev and Rachel, and in this season you have Francesca and Dev, which I think was way more compelling than Dev and Rachel, but we'll get into that. This season overall, you get episodes directed by Alan Yang and Aziz and Eric Warheim, who plays Arnold in the show. The direction, in my opinion, was incredible, especially that first episode, which I believe was directed by Aziz Ansari. All shot in black and white. It plays out like a independent film in a lot of ways, when he's still in Modena in Italy. And it's not necessarily even related to the overall arc of the season, but it still is compelling in fleshing out all of these characters, introducing Francesca, and just showing what Dev has been up to since we last saw him in Season 1. The dialogue, I think, is way improved from the last season, where I felt like a lot of the jokes were kind of, not necessarily that they fell flat, but just that they didn't hit as hard as I feel like they were meant to, for me, at least. The show runs at an effortless pace. It is, all in all, just a fantastically written show that never gets in its own way. Each character is incredibly well realized and hard to not feel endeared to within even 5 minutes. I mentioned that first episode, Thief, I believe it's called, and you meet Francesca, and immediately I feel like you could sense there was a connection between her and Dev, and you could get a good sense for her, very charming kind of attitude that she carries throughout the entire season, even though she kind of dips in and out, right? It actually almost gets to the point where I feel like Dev isn't even the one carrying the show a lot of the time, especially in episodes like episode 6, New York, I Love You. It's really like the episode of The Simpsons 22 Short Stories About Springfield, which I know is a kind of a parody of Pulp Fiction, but it moves at a fast pace, and it zooms from character to character and how their lives intersect within New York City. And I feel like that episode barely even features Dev, but just these random citizens of New York, kind of living in a lower social class than Dev as well, or living with issues like deafness and spending your money on going to a club that you don't even get into. Aziz is very much so still the center of the show, even though I said he kind of falls into the backdrop a bit. Aziz, as always, is quick, warm, goofy, incredibly lovable. Every character around him compliments him in some sort of way. I loved the Big Bud, Little Bud kind of relationship with him and Arnold. I thought it was incredibly well done, and just everything that they did together was so funny, especially in that second episode where they go to Arnold's ex-girlfriend's wedding, and they compliment each other so well that I'm glad that they really capitalized on their friendship in this season, a bit more than they did in the last season. The relationship between Dev and Francesca, if I haven't mentioned it enough times by now, also I feel like was really wonderfully executed. I've said to many people, in the past few days since I've watched it, episode 9, Amarsi un po, which I believe translates to love each other a little, though I'm not sure, you might want to fact check that one, is the best hour of television that I think I've ever seen. Like, it's very focused on their relationship and the very confusing feelings that are being thrown back and forth from each direction, and it's done so well. Like, I just can't imagine it being pulled off in a better manner. And then the climax of all of that, the helicopter ride, and then everything that follows in episode 10 is just so fantastically done. Episode 5 had a moment for me, the dinner party. At the end of the episode, it's almost painful to watch, but he does, Aziz has just shown that he's willing to do these very experimental things, just things that you wouldn't expect to see, certainly on a cable television show that, he can kind of play with the format here on Netflix. The ending is so happy, yet so brutally honest, to the viewer. It is just him sitting in a car kind of mourning this lost opportunity at love, or mourning the lack of an opportunity, as that one Soft Cell song plays. What is it called? Oh yeah, Say Hello, Wave Goodbye, right, by Soft Cell. Great song, by the way, as it plays for 3 minutes. They let it play for 3 minutes, which I thought was incredible, just to see a show that had the audacity to really fully illustrate that feeling. I think that there are a couple episodes in here that serve as fantastic short films on their own, but when put together as a whole, are incredibly compelling, namely episode 4, which underscores Dev and Francesca kind of getting together at the end of the season. Episode 4 is all of Dev's kind of first dates, kind of running as a commentary on the culture of dating in 2017, where he is meeting these girls on Tinder or whatever app that he's using in the show, and he's just going on these dates, and none of them are really going well, or they all end poorly, and then the final shot of him sitting at home and clicking on another girl and matching with her and using that same Whole Foods line. Everything in the show manages to be insightful, yet continues to be funny. And that is something that I feel like you got to be a talented writer to be able to maintain something like that. Like, even moments in A Marcy and Poe made me laugh, and that episode was just so hard to get through without feeling distraught, physically fucking distraught, kind of like, what's gonna happen, will they, won't they, kind of thing happening. As I mentioned earlier, season 2 tackles a lot of social issues that season 1 also tackled. However, I feel in lesser hands, this would have been seen as kind of pandering or virtue signaling. But I think that Alan Yang and Aziz Ansari just have such a grasp on kind of the political landscape, as some may say, to kind of have these social issues addressed in the show, yet you lose the plot in doing that. A lot of shows, I feel like, lose the plot because they want to convey a strong social message. However, Master of None really does handle it with grace and very subtly, and it keeps it from overstaying its welcome. It doesn't lose touch of what the show is really about, and it's, Dev and these characters and the relationships between all of them. And I think that's something very special about this show. To end it off, I suppose, where do we find the characters at the end of the season? I guess Francesca and Dev are together, I suppose. That final shot, I feel like, kind of after everything that happened in the beginning of that episode with Chef Jeff kind of being a creep and Dev's career going down the toilet, and, him just not even really caring about any of that and just caring about Francesca, I think was a very powerful thing. And then, it seemingly working out at the end. I can't wait to see where season 3 goes. That ending shot, I wrote down here, I said it was among the best since the ending of The Sopranos. This is in terms of such a jarring moment, and then just being over. The way I explained it to people during season 1 was, I said it was a less cynical Louis, kind of a bit more upbeat, because that's Aziz's character, and Louis C.K., he does have his very very bleak kind of outlook, I think, in a lot of his comedy, and Aziz is very much more bubbly, and he kind of maintains that with Master of None. But he has shown that he can tell very compelling and often sad and upsetting and powerful stories, within this format that Louis kind of busted open the doors for people back a couple of years ago when he started up his show. I'm glad that Aziz got this shot, and especially, the freedom that he's been given by Netflix, because season 2 of Master of None is definitely something special, and I have to say, I award it my only and first 10 out of 10 for a MDRM review, and now that is a bit hard for me to say, but it definitely deserves it. I don't know how else to hammer home that everybody should be watching the show. There's nothing wrong with it in my mind. There was not a single moment where I rolled my eyes, a single moment where I, picked up my phone and didn't want to pay attention. Throughout, I believe, the 5 hours of season 2, Master of None, I was constantly in the moment and, kind of learning about these characters and kind of being endeared to them, which is something that is very hard for a lot of TV shows to do, I've noticed, with these longer formats that have been going on. I can't wait to see what they do in the future. Whenever season 3 comes out, I'll be there day one, and I'll certainly be doing another review of it. I hope it doesn't take another year and a half. That would suck. But yes, Master of None season 2 is a 10 out of 10. Everybody should watch it. Aziz Ansari, Alan Yang, Eric Wareheim, everybody that was involved in the show, thank you so much. If you see this, even though you probably won't, makes me feel, very happy that there's a show that can tackle romance in a realistic yet entertaining manner, without remaining totally bleak on the subject, which I've noticed a lot of shows tend to do now. What did you think? I loved it, obviously. So put your opinions in the comments. Let me know what you thought. Francesca having this Dev season 1 moment where he went to Italy, where she's coming to New York. What'd you think of that? I don't know. Find me at Mateo Rispoli on Twitter. Find all my boys at TylerBill _ at Mogenkai _ for Alejandro, and at Carl Anderson _ I don't know how they all got the underscore. I didn't. Whatever. You can find us all at Modern Day Ren Men on Twitter, Modern Day Ren Men on Instagram, and Modern Day Renaissance Men on Facebook. The website's a bit down, but we'll bring it back up, and we'll have something I think ready in the near future if Alejandro is to be believed, which I don't know if he is. So yeah, subscribe, comment, like, do whatever you want to do. Remove us from the slums of YouTube. We'd appreciate it quite a bit. We release a lot of content, and we hope y'all enjoy it. See ya.